I challenge you to a duel. It's the only argument I need.
I don't want to talk to you no more, you.
You got a lot of nerve.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated.
Stop defending him, Sean!
All right, let's go.
Hey, sleepers, welcome to the Sleeper Wire Great Debate Show. I am your host, Professor Chris, and with me once again, Dirty Jobs Mike. DJ Mike, what's going on, dude?
What is happening, man? How are we doing this evening? Always a blast to be on the Great Debates, as always.
Yes, it's always great having you here. You might be my favorite. Tied between you and Hoos.
Oh. You had to throw Hoos in there.
I know, 1A, 1B. It's like, which one of your kids do you love more? You know?
See, for me, it's easy. It's my son.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm
there
just.
You go. All right. Well, hey, this is the week 3 Great Debate. So we got 3 weeks of the NFL season underway. Doing wide receivers again this week. So we have Geronimo, Allison versus Calvin Ridley. But before we get into that, guys, if you like what you hear, please go to iTunes or Google Play and drop us a 5-star rating and leave us a nice review there. This show is called The Great Debate because that's exactly what it is. It's a debate. It's not an argument. We get 2.5 minutes to argue for our player. We get 90 seconds for rebuttals, and then we get final thoughts. That's it. There's no winner. There's no loser. There's just unbiased, objective, stats-based arguments for and against these two guys. We take those gut feelings that a lot of people have, we throw them out the window, and then we dig into some numbers. And we're going to go ahead and get started right here. So kicking it off with Geronimo Allison, the 6'3", third-year wide receiver seems to be having his breakout season. So far, against some pretty good defenses, he's put up 13 catches for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. Going against Chicago back in Week 1, he had 5 catches on 8 targets for 69 yards and a touchdown. Week 2 against Minnesota, 6 catches for 6 targets for 64 yards. And this past week, 4 targets, 2 catches for 76 yards with a 64-yard touchdown reception. So far this season, he's received 3 targets in the red zone. He's on pace for 16. That may not seem like much, but that's the same number of red zone targets that A.J. Green and Michael Thomas had last season. Now, of course, I am not saying that Geronimo Allison is going to be A.J. Green or Michael Thomas, so don't read into that. I'm trying to emphasize that 16 red zone targets is pretty good. Davante Adams got 23 targets last year, which was second most out of all wide receivers. In 2016, the last full season from Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson had 32 red zone targets, and Davante Adams had 23. Let's face it, Aaron Rodgers throws it a lot in the red zone. The Packers don't have much of a running game. They've been a passing team for a long, long time. Now, of course, Jimmy Graham is a big target in the red zone, and by big, I mean he's a big guy. But guess how many targets he has? 1. Compared to last season's 26, that's nothing. Is that likely going to continue? Maybe not, but Rodgers has always thrown the ball to his wide receivers inside the 20. Back in 2014, let's go back. Let's look at the history here. 2014, Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb had the 3rd and 4th most targets, red zone targets in the NFL, respectively. In 2015, which was Jordy's ACL tear season, Cobb had 21 red zone targets inside the 20, of course, because they're red zone targets, which was 6th most. Any wide receiver who is getting targeted regularly from Aaron Rodgers is utilized inside the red zone for those touchdown passes. As I mentioned before, back in 2016, Jordy led the league with 32 inside the 20. Are you telling me that Jimmy Graham is going to get that many? Is he going to soak up all of those red zone targets away from Aaron Rodgers? No, he's not. He's a big body, and other teams know that. They have to pay special attention to both him and Davante Adams inside the 20, and that is going to open up scoring opportunities for Geronimo Allison, who has very good hands. He's got a catch percentage of 72.2%. He's averaging 69.7 yards.
Okay, so it's really hard for me to talk about Geronimo Allison in a bad way because I really like this player. He's fast, he's good, he's tall, he's a big target, but there's a lot of things that I just think that make Calvin Ridley a lot better of an option for you. For starters, I mean, this guy was undrafted. Nobody ever saw enough in this guy to pick him up off of their radar. And so he came into the league just without the draft results or anything. He runs a 4.67 40, which isn't bad. but it isn't as fast as, say, you're looking for a receiver. You've got a hobbled up Rodgers right now, so he's not throwing the ball 100% right there now either. And then again, going back to exactly where Chris just was, it's Jimmy Graham's there too. Jimmy Graham is a giant presence in the red zone, and he's going to become a giant presence in the red zone for that Green Bay team. I think you see him starting to kind of look his way more. He hasn't gotten the connections yet, but I have a feeling that somebody that size with that kind of tenacity when they play football will be able to hop in there and get those balls. They don't really have a rushing attack on the Green Bay Packers right now, and that's another thing that really hurts the passing attack, because all you got to do is throw your linebacker back on short coverage and then drop a safety up top, and this guy's going to be almost immobilized. And you're in the NFC North, so I mean, you're facing Minnesota twice, you're facing Detroit, you're facing Chicago Bears, all really tough defenses, where I just like the schedule of the...
All right, let's take it over Calvin Ridley.
Okay, so what can I say about Calvin Ridley that hasn't been said yet, besides the guy is just amazing. He came out of Alabama this year. He was drafted in the first round. He runs a 4.43 40. He's got a 31-inch vert. Guy's got 9-inch hands. I mean, the guy's just perfect, tailor-made for a wide receiver position. You couple that with on the opposite side, you have Julio Jones, who's possibly the best in the game right now, if not one of the best in the game. And you've got a guy who has... you're just going to have to demand attention. You're going to have to cover Julio Jones. And Mohamed Sanu's sitting over there, and he's no slouch either. So you've got Mohamed Sanu out there. You've got Devontae Freeman in the backfield, who's a fantastic running back and a great pass-catching back. So, I mean, you're just going to have to pay attention to every single detail on that Atlanta Falcons offense. So you're not going to be able to throw as much attention on Calvin Ridley as you say would on the others. They're a very, very balanced football team. They've got a good offense, a good defense. Maybe not as good as, say, the Packers have, but definitely serviceable enough where you'll get in the game. They're probably going to be in a lot of high-paced shootouts. I mean, facing teams like New Orleans and things like that, you're going to have a lot of throws, and a lot of those throws have to go to Calvin Ridley, because a guy with his size, with his stature, and with his speed and his ability to catch, it's over. I mean, the guy in college at Alabama had 224 receptions for 2,781 yards and 19 touchdowns. And that's on Alabama. And if you want to talk about mouths to feed in the NFL, just watch a game in college football where you've got talent 3 deep at each position of people of this magnitude that can do this. So when you look at how that has translated to the NFL, and just in his first season, he's already got 11 catches, 210 yards for 4 touchdowns. And guys, we're in week 3, and he's already putting up a stat line like this. And I think the relationship between him and Matt Ryan is only going to get better. It's only going to get stronger. And I just cannot stress enough the offensive weapons on that team. When you have that many weapons to cater to, it's almost impossible to throw, say, double coverage or drop a linebacker in. You're going to have that linebacker spying on Freeman or Coleman. He's not going to be able to drop back as quick. Boom, you have the quick route right there. And this guy has the speed to turn that into a break and go.
Okay, so monster game, no denying that. 7 for 146 and 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns total the last 2 weeks. That's going to blow this guy up this week on waivers. He's probably going to be the most expensive player in Fab Leagues. He's 44% owned, and that's definitely going to rise a ton, as it should. Awesome week by him. However, are we really going to trust that Matt Ryan can be back to his MVP self, throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns a week like he did back in 2016? He's certainly not going to run for 2 every single week. In a shootout with the Saints, it's no surprise that Ryan put up big numbers. But he had a big tendency to fall off after a good game last season. His rare good game that he had, he wasn't great. He almost wasn't even good for fantasy. And his 2016 season, if you look back at his history, was completely out of character for him. And we saw that when he fell back to earth. Now, if he's going back to his MVP form, then Ridley is going to be super valuable. But you're going to have to pay up for this guy this week. And if you want him, even if it's not a Fab League, if it's a regular waiver wire league, if you have number 1 waiver priority, you have to spend it on this guy because he's certainly going to be picked up by someone in your league. He's going to be more expensive. Before we move into final thoughts, today's show is sponsored by PristineAuction.com. You've heard us talk about them before. They have new auctions every single day, hundreds of new auctions every single day for prices that are damn near unbeatable. Everything on the site is JSA certified. It's all 100% authentic. They have great signed memorabilia. Visit pristineauction.com today. It's free to join. It's free to bid. Let them know you heard about them from Sleeper Wire. That's PRISTINE auction.com. Well, let's take it back to Geronimo Allison here. So as I was saying, he's averaging 69.7 yards per game, and that number is not exaggerated by one huge game. Week 1, 69 yards. Week 2, 64 yards. Week 3, 76 yards. That seems to be a pretty safe floor for him through 3 weeks. Coming up in the next 3 weeks, Allison's going to be going against the Bills, the Lions, and the 49ers. All very good matchups for wide receivers. And yes, I am ignoring what the Bills did to the Vikings this past week. Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs still got a combined 29 targets against the Bills. Cousins was just bad. I mean, Thielen was still amazing. He was still Adam Thielen. When it comes to fantasy, you want production, which is maybe the most obvious statement you'll hear anybody say, but that's what we've been getting from Geronimo Allison every single week. He's had double-digit points every week in PPR, 17.9 against the Bears, 12.4 against the Vikings, and 15.6 against the Redskins. The guy's been getting it done. He's only 34% owned right now. If you're struggling for wide receiver depth due to injury, like the Doug Baldwin owners or players just flat out not performing, like the Robbie Andersons, this is a guy who seems like a safe wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 play each week with potential for a lot more.
See, and I almost can't argue with almost anything you just said. I don't know that I've ever been part of a great debate of two players that I've wanted to add to my team more.
Yeah, I love both these guys.
Yeah, see, certain things I completely agree. I mean, Ridley is going to cost you, whereas I think you probably sneak Geronimo Allison for 10 to probably 15% of your fab. I mean, to me, you really can't go wrong with either one of these guys. I just think I like the offensive threat and what the offense looks like in Atlanta as opposed to Green Bay, which is really, really crazy to say because I love Aaron Rodgers and everything there. But it just seems like ever since he took that shot to the knee, it just hasn't been the same Aaron Rodgers. Again, you can't argue with the floor, and this could just be a fluke game for Ridley. So that is two things that I cannot argue with in this debate. It's just, they're two facts right there. So if you're looking for consistent floor, I have to go with Allison. And if you're looking for that high ceiling of a guy that I think can really light up the NFL this year, get Calvin Ridley. Do what you can to get him.
And that is going to wrap it up for this week's Great Debate Show. Please check out sleeperwire.com. You can check out our weekly rankings up there every single Wednesday. It's a combination of myself, Dirty Jobs, and our Prophet Hoos as well. So you get me and Mike's rankings on there as along with Hoos. Follow us on Twitter at Sleeperwire Show. I'm on there at Prof_Chris SW. Mike is on there at DirtyJobs21. You can follow us on SleeperBot at Dirty Jobs and at Professor Chris, and on the Fantasy Life at Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris as well. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week.